Talking to the mic again?
Okay. All right, so we did that.
Waterway and Beach District for April 21st, 2026. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would any commissioners like to offer an invocation? Chaplain? Yeah.
Dear Lord, we come to you today to ask that you grant us blessings in our meeting today. Let us make decisions to better and make safer our beaches and our waterways. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Next is roll call.
Oh, that would be me. Commissioner Rivers?
Here.
Commissioner Flowers? Absent. Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Bender?
Here.
Commissioner Kirker?
Here.
Next is adoption and approval of agenda. Do any commissioners have any modifications to the agenda they'd like to see made, or do I have a motion to adopt as written?
I move we approve the agenda as written.
Second. There's a second. All in favor? Aye. Public comment? No? Government representative comments? No? Okay.
Hello, Commissioners. Carl Blow with the Florida Inland Navigation District. I just wanted to touch base with you on our grant program, which you guys are involved in. Our deadline passed at the end of March, and from St. Johns County, which includes the city of St. Augustine, we received 3 grant applications. One from the county to dredge the Volano boat ramp basin. It's for $250,000. That's their request, and of course that's a 50-50 grant. So they're hoping to remove approximately 5,000 cubic yards of material, and obviously they've budgeted about $100 a cubic yard. It's just the number keeps going up.
Wow.
As far as the Salt Run, the city's application for Salt Run channel dredging, which you guys are a participant in, a very important participant, that's a 75% grant. Obviously, it's $300 from fine, $100,000 from the Port District. And the city here again, that application is budgeted for 4,000 cubic yards, which is $100 a cubic yard. But that's a multi-year grant, and as you guys know, they'll hopefully accumulate maybe 3 of those before they actually do any work. And then the third one was also from the city of St. Augustine for a new fireboat. And I think you're going to get a presentation today about that. And but that did come in. It came in within the deadline, and that's $125,000 from fine. That's the maximum amount that we will provide for fireboats and law enforcement vessels. So other than that, you total those all up, and that's $675,000. Theoretically, from the county, which would include the city, we could have as much as $1,380,000 per our rule. So we kind of, left a little money on the table perhaps, but I think all 3 of these will score very high. We did receive a large amount of grant applications from the other counties, and particularly from Broward County and Miami-Dade. Broward County, for the last number of years, has not been very aggressive in grant applications, but they submitted a bunch this year. So it will be interesting in June when we review all these applications and score. So other than that, that's all I have.
A question with the Walden Family Park down the road. It's too premature for the county to ask you for money?
Yeah, they're working on, they will be asking for money on that, but they're currently in permitting, design and permitting, and it won't be this year. I expect to see something next year from them.
only reason I ask is that you're leaving on the table about $500,000, $600,000 that could go to the county if they had asked for the money, if
Right.
they were ready.
But they're not in the position yet.
Correct.
Of course, our grant would cover the marine side, which would be, they plan to dredge a basin in there.
Correct. Which is what we recover too, correct, from our side?
Yes, sir, my understanding. Now, of course, they're spending a bunch of money out there on infrastructure. They're getting ready to make that connection to State Road 312. But if you guys get out there, you'll see there's a lot of work going on.
I've been by it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other government reps? I see. Oak?
Lieutenant Keith Oak, St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. Hey, just a quick, wanted to highlight between meetings, right, what's going on. Just in your port area, in between the two meetings, we had a STAR conference, a search and rescue symposium that was downtown. It's an annual event. It grew to over 90 participants, federal, state, and local. So it's a growing annual thing that we host here in St. Augustine, so it kind of highlights our programs with fire rescue in the Sheriff's Office. If you're not aware, and I'm sure the Commission is, we're a very SAR active area. And on that highlight, I think in between the two meetings, Chris, probably a half dozen or so SAR responses. The sun is up, the weather is warm, and our boating folks are out and about. So, we're picking up. A little fun to know, we actually sent a boat crew down on mutual aid to participate in the Artemis launch. So if you weren't aware, we're that active across the state. So, Chris, you were in the crew, actually. So they got to go down shore, set up a safety zone, and work with them to watch that go hit outer space. So just a little highlight of the things going on around us and within the port and out, and what your public safety agencies are up to. I think if you ever talk to other areas, we're a pretty squared away group of individuals, and you have a very high functioning group, and you play a role in that with the support you give us, so we appreciate that.
While you're up there, where are we with any derelict boats that need to be removed? Are we all caught up?
I think we, as the Sheriff's Office, are. I'm not sure on FWCs. I know just in the conversations in the office, I think there's only like one or two. We have a few folks that we've been issuing citations to that aren't quite at the derelict status yet. We're hoping to motivate them not to be. But again, we are moving into season, warmer season, so we expect to see a little more activity. Weather and creator willing, we'll have another calm season and won't have a bunch created for us. So I can get those numbers for next. If that's something you want, and
Yes.
monthly, I can kind of
I
start.
only talk for
collecting that
myself,
and-
but yes, I would want them monthly.
We can start putting that together so we have a monthly review. That's pretty easy to do.
That'd be great, thank you. Any other questions for Lieutenant Oak? No? All right. Thank you. Any other government representative? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I just want to say, so to the lieutenant and the crew, so about 3 weeks ago, I was building a new dock. I'm in Old Bulls Bay in St. Johns County, so St. Johns River, Old Bulls Bay. So they had gotten about 150 feet of the pier built, and when I wake up on Saturday morning, it was a good crew, they were doing the thing, and I find a sailboat stuck underneath the brand-new dock where it broke from its mooring. So it's great. It's Saturday morning. It's a great way to start my weekend. The St. John's crew, responded honestly because, I think your boats go in about 6 miles south.
We keep a 27 at Trout Creek.
Yeah, so that's 6, 7, 8 miles. So, they were, for Saturday morning, I forget the name of the officer, I have it on my phone, but, he got there, really, I guess they come to work at 8 on the weekend, so if you have a problem, don't let it be before 8, but honestly...
Full response before 8, absolutely.
Honestly, yes, this was nobody was dying, unless I found the guy, then he would have been. So, no, he showed up, he had it all tied up, he had searched, with the identification markers on the vessel, yada, yada. He had already issued 3 summonses and had it towed away by 11 that morning back to the mooring field, which is, I don't know, about 300 yards away maybe. But the responsiveness, I think, should be noted. Saturday, quick there, wasn't an issue, had it tied off, sent back to the mooring field. So I appreciate it, but that's in action.
Hurt your
I'll let 'em
dock?
know.
That it hurt my dock, the boat was such a piece of crap that my dock, I think, hurt it more.
Oh,
Because, I mean, the crew did a great job rebuilding all of it, but I was worried that it had gotten underneath it, that if the tide kept coming in, even though the tide there is quite a bit less than here,
Off the top, right
last thing
off.
I wanted to do is, but anyway, so I, for one, appreciate the service. He did a great job.
I'll let them know. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other government representative comments? Seeing nothing. The Secretary Treasurer's Report.
All right, the city police law enforcement overtime, haven't spent anything on their overtime yet. I'm sure it's coming, the summer's coming. The St. Johns County Sheriff's Department overtime, of the 30,000 committed, there was 9,400 spent. Haven't spent anything on derelict boats yet. Nothing, oh wait, I'll take that back, 17,963. Channel marker repairs, 6,100 was spent. In the State Board of Administration, Fund A, we have 27,662. In the operating account, there is 733,932. In the money market, we have 1,837,478, and the reserve has 500,000. So the 1,837 and the 500,000 added together is what's in that one account. Taxes that we budgeted, 955,000, we've received 876,000 to date. We're still expecting 79,000. Just so you're aware, I'm in the middle of a audit right now, so I've been tied up a lot with CRI, with port audit, and trim is starting. So, because it starts June 1st. But they're starting with getting me, I have to get a bunch of paperwork together, so it's been, now is my time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions for Elise on the Secretary Treasurer's Report? Hearing nothing. Next is approval of minutes from the March 17th, 2026 meeting. Any changes to the minutes as written? Hearing nothing. Do I have a motion to approve as written?
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. Engineering report. Anything to report, or are you holding your tongue until we've got you? Yeah, that's a thumbs up. It's waiting until old business B, which we'll be at in just a second, but first, we need old business A, attorney search, all commissioners.
Under engineering report, besides the channel marker, we had directed the engineer to look at the one piece of
I
property.
believe he's going to speak on that at the same time.
So addressing 11A on the agenda, attorney search, guidance was given at the last meeting as far as preparing an advertisement soliciting proposals, and some timelines were discussed as well. The advertisement has been circulated to all commissioners by BCC. There's no sunshine violation. Everyone got them individually. To review the advertisement that did go in the Volusia County Bar Journal. The Volusia County Bar Journal runs typically, you have to be in several days prior to the month it's going out, and the issues go out basically on the first of each month. Because of the timing of the last meeting, we did not technically meet their deadline. Fortunately, I was able to slightly pull a string and get us in regardless of that. They waived the normal deadline, so that did run in the Volusia County Bar Journal we went out on April 1st. What you saw, that is out as of April 1st, but only within the Volusia County Bar Journal. There was a little mix-up in communication as far as the other entities that were discussed at the last meeting for submitting the advertisement. To my knowledge, upon further review, I am not certain there actually is an entity in Duval or Jacksonville that would do something similar to what Volusia County does. As far as a monthly periodical that goes out to its membership. Regardless of that, the other entity that this body indicated they wanted to advertise in was the Florida Bar Journal. That advertisement did not go out. Obviously, the advertisement as written requests submissions to be sent in and received on or before May 5. If the ad were to run in the Florida Bar Journal now, it would be unlikely to be able to be effective. So my suggestion and request is guidance from the commission to not do anything further with the Volusia County Bar Journal. I think anything that does come in from Volusia within the required timeline, at least we'll get them from the post office. We can contact them and say, forget about the May meeting, we're going to do this in June. And then run a similar ad to the one that I circulated in the Florida Bar Journal, just changing the deadlines to make it make sense for the June meeting of the commission. By my calendar, the June meeting would be on the 16th. So I think if I just changed this from received on or before May 5 to make it received on or before June 5, you end up in the same basic position, and you can review these at the June meeting. And that's really the update on this. To my knowledge, there are no envelopes that have been received to date. If they had been, they would still be unopened as indicated in the thing. But the way the advertisement is written, pardon my enunciation, it did make it clear to anybody that did submit it for the Volusia response that the May meeting was a potential thing that could be bumped in the future. So that base is already covered preemptively. At this point, just seeking guidance from the commission and permission to rerun this, or run it rather, in the Florida Bar Journal with the revised dates, and guidance as to whether the commission would like me to take the lead on that or whether I should turn that over to Lise as far as contacting the Florida Bar.
Well, I will defer to you on the wisdom of whether or not it should be you or Elise who does it. I think now that it's written, you were the one who drafted it. It would probably be pretty trivial for Elise to actually do it, right? Elise, you could, so that would be cheaper for us, so maybe it would make sense for Elise to do it. But basically what you're looking for, it sounds like, is a motion to approve the plan as you have described it, which is to run the same advertisement in the Florida Bar Journal with a later date so that we can solicit proposals from other attorneys who are reading the Florida Bar Journal. I have no problem with that. That was essentially what we had voted on last time, but I guess there was a communication breakdown of some kind, so we just need to push the date back. Does anybody have a problem with that or any suggestion for any other course of action besides that?
No, but we have received there's been no really interest or activity yet.
Not to date, but I would not take that as a necessarily negative sign. Obviously, I'm here because I submitted a response to one of those proposals in years past. It is very, very common for the attorneys to not submit them, 3 weeks in advance. If the deadline was May 5, I would expect most of the applications in response to that to come in May 1, 2, 3, and 4. When I would normally expect them. So the fact that we haven't received anything yet is not necessarily a negative. There may be factors that it is a negative indication, but we don't really know that yet.
Okay. Well then, go ahead.
Where will the St. Johns County attorneys see this ad? Where?
The best way for the St. Johns County attorneys to see it will be in the Florida Bar Journal. The St. Johns County Bar Association, while it is growing, just like the rest of St. Johns County is growing, and they have an excellent membership, nothing negative to say about any of the members of their organization, they don't yet have the level of membership that justifies having a specific designated administrator that's on a paid salary like the Volusia County Bar Association does. We hired someone that is her job, that is her, 24/7, she just does work for the Volusia County Bar Association. We have enough of a membership to be able to support that expense. And because of that, we have the newsletter that goes out each month, and we have activities that go on throughout the month that she's able to organize and keep going. St. John's just has not yet reached that membership level where you could have a reasonable due assessment and still generate enough revenue to have that person to take the lead and do that kind of thing. So they just don't have the newsletter like Volusia does. But they would certainly get the Florida Bar Journal. And that's something, that's the best way to reach St. Johns County attorneys, other than certainly, word of mouth is perfectly appropriate as well.
That's
Yes,
what
sir.
I was going to ask. Would it make sense just to send a copy of what's printed in the Volusia to the chairman of the local bar association, that they could say at their monthly meeting, oh, by the way, this position's open?
To my knowledge, I'm not even certain they actually have a monthly meeting.
Okay.
I'll tell you, just as a brief aside, Volusia County Bar Association, all the bar associations in the Seventh Circuit, is by far the largest. And even within our organization, there's not a set monthly meeting where we all have lunch on this day or that date. We will have events within the county on a semi-regular basis. As far as events that are tailored to the entire bar association of the county, there's probably one of those about once every 2 to 3 months. We actually just had one a couple weeks ago that was wonderful, had lots of judges, a great event, but we don't have them each month. And that, again, that's the bigger bar association of the 4 in this circuit. So I would strongly suspect there's not a regular monthly meeting of the St. John's Bar Association, but if it's the will of the council or commission, I can
put it in
certainly
the
reach
record?
out to them and say, at your next meeting, here's the ad, we'd love it if you would mention it, if it happens to be in time. I can certainly do that.
Yeah, an email or a phone call, I guess, couldn't hurt, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so then maybe the motion should be run the ad in the Florida Bar Journal with the dates modified, and also send an email or make a phone call to the St. Johns County Bar Association just to see if there's any mechanism for them to disseminate that to their membership in some way or another.
certainly. And again, as long as it's not communication between commissioners, everyone is free to drop a
Right.
bug in people's ears about, hey, this thing is out there.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple folks in town about it so far. No interest yet.
And to that end, I might also suggest, as long as it's not a big hang-up with the web host or release, maybe putting a copy of this on the port's website. So if someone locally does want to apply, you can say, hey, if you're interested, it's on our website, tells you everything you got to do to get your application, and it might not hurt as well.
That's great. So in that case, a motion would be
All
run
those things.
in Florida Bar Journal. Yeah, run in Florida Bar Journal with modified dates, phone call or email to the St. Johns County Bar Association, and post on our website.
I so move.
There's a motion there.
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Clay.
Yes, sir.
Next item of old business, item B, channel marker number 9 cost, all commissioners. And then Jim, also addendum, if you could give us an update, if you have any, on the May Street kayak launch, which was change order. Okay, so yes, $600 more is what this says, to add a sign to channel marker number 9 on the new piling. The piling itself, I want to say, was $6,000 some odd dollars, $6,000 even?
I think it's 6,100.
$6,100, so we're looking at $6,700 to replace channel marker number 9, including installation of a new sign. Great. That's pretty straightforward, so in that case, we need a motion and a second.
My only question or comment is that I know some of the meetings here are difficult for people to schedule and be here, but the lack of communication in terms of not having signs or having signs available, fortunately we have a temporary marker buoys out there, but it kind of delays action, and down the road we could run into safety issues for boaters. So I would encourage people who have input, come to these meetings.
Okay, that's a good note. Does anybody have any questions for Jim? Jim has something to say?
Commissioner, I understand exactly what you're getting to. So, again, I do think it would be helpful. We had put forward a couple of thoughts and ideas 3 or 4 months ago that if you enter into a multi-entity inspection agreement or periodic inspection, that you would get much better response because you wouldn't have to go through this. You'd have, say, you'd have a pallet of 3 or 4 different or 5 contractors, however many you want to put, that you could execute as soon as the board says, call them tomorrow, because they already would have been vetted through the process, that they're qualified to be one of your potential vendors to do that specific, what we've given you is a document of specifically for fixing channel markers, that it was an emergency action, because, I think we all understand that nobody wants to have less safety. The fastest way to do that, short of you only meet once a month, you bring forward an idea, then we have to go out and ask folks. They have to respond, but you're not going to validate that until the next meeting. Then it has to go back. Whereas if you had just an annual list on your emergency need, then they'd be on that list. Put that out the next day from when the board says yes. They could all respond. We could say you have 3 days, 5 days. Remember, that it gave you the option that we would put it out there to the 3, 4, 5 vendors, whoever responded. And they'd have whatever days that you had put on that document for them to respond, and then it could be selected, and you wouldn't have to do this wait. I agree, nobody likes this idea, but that's what the rules say right now.
Right.
So
I'm obviously in favor of that and voted for it. The previous time I voted for it when the city made the proposal that they would handle all that on kind of a continuing basis rather than us having to vote every single time. The one wrinkle in it right now, though, is that in the intervening time, we have decided that we are going to potentially pursue some beefier channel marker designs, which we still have not run that experiment yet. I think we're waiting for one of those to go down to install a much bigger one and see if that improves things, which would complicate that kind of automatic process because we don't know what kind of channel markers we even want going forward yet. That's still a question. But I agree that at some point in the future we do need to revisit the idea of there being some sort of automation to this process because, as Commissioner Bender said, it's been down a couple months now. There's got to be a better way to do this than the way we have been doing it for so long. So I think that would be well worth our time to revisit in the future. In the meantime, though, we have channel marker number 9 down. We have a cost for it, so we need a motion to approve $6,700 to replace channel marker number 9, which has now been down for 3 months, I believe.
Actually, just to be clear, the 6,100 has already been approved, and the filing is in place.
Yes.
It's just approval of the 600.
Terrific. So we only need to approve $600 in additional outlay to fund the sign so that there can be a sign on the pole that we'll be installing.
I'm happy to move that we pay the extra $600 for the sign.
There's a motion to approve. There's a second. All in favor? Aye. While we have you up there, do you have anything on May Street yet?
I do not.
Okay, so that's fine, but just for public record, the request at last meeting was for Taylor to take a look and see what our options are at May Street. There's some pitting in that informal parking lot and kayak launch that's back there. We had previously had it filled in. When was that, Tom? Was that 7 years ago at this point, 6 years ago? It was a long time ago. For about $20-some-odd thousand. I think within about 6 months it was back to its original pitted state. I don't think the previous fill-in really did much to improve it. But we've also been told in the past by state DEP and other agencies that there's basically nowhere to go in that parking lot because where you try to expand it in one direction, you're into the road bed. If you try to expand it in the other direction, you're in salt marsh, which they would never allow you to do. So we look forward to hearing what our options are given those limitations.
I have something just to mention. I go by there several times a day, and this weekend it had turned into a serious overflow for boat trailer parking, which I don't really have any problem with that. It's probably better than up and down the causeway, but it was being used extensively for that.
Yeah, I saw that. It was Saturday. It was a nice day. There were a lot of boats out on the water.
Regarding the May Street, and I'm just projecting, if we can't fix it properly, then I think we should put no trespassing signs up.
It's worth considering, especially because Corey, I believe the city has purchased the parcel immediately across Hospital Creek, and their intention is to turn it into a kayak launch. Is that right?
The city commissioners have approved in the purchase of that lot that's across, sorry. Corey Sackard, City of St. Augustine. Yes, the city had approved a purchase of that lot, but at this time, there is no plan going forward with developing that lot at this time with our conservation program. Our commission has yet to give us that guidance on which direction they want to go.
Oh, okay, I see. So maybe they won't.
Who owns it?
The City of St. Augustine right now.
Okay, interesting. Well, certainly if that ever does become a kayak launch, that completely obviates the need for one, a much worse one, and much lower one across the street. So at that point, we absolutely should put out no trespassing signs. Yeah, okay. Does anybody have any other additional comments or questions on that?
Personally, I'm opposed to putting no trespassing signs. People have used it for years and years and years. I don't think really we have to do anything. If the city wants to, that's okay. But it's been used daily for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, ever since the bridge was put in, it's been used. People fish down there, they kayak launch, they park.
Right.
So.
I bring it up on the no trespassing signs because of liability issues.
Yeah, I mean, that's
you don't maintain something proper and somebody gets hurt.
That's a back and forth that we've had for many years.
That's not our concern because we have no part in approving it or anything.
Well, I think the thinking is if there's a no trespassing sign, we wouldn't enforce it, but the very existence of the no trespassing sign would probably obviate some of our potential liability, right? Because we had clearly said, you're not supposed to be out here. So if you are out here and you got hurt, that's your fault. It's not our fault.
Correct, and I want to get into a deep discussion with the commission until the full options are in front of it to consider. But the liability is definitely something to keep in mind, especially, obviously, the commission is aware of the fact that the surface is not ideal. There are ruts. Ruts are things people can trip over. Certainly, there are defenses based upon open and obvious, but an even better defense is you had no legal right to be there in the first place because it was posted.
Right.
But again, that's something the commission has to balance against access to waterways, and there is a risk under either event. But that's
if the city of St. Augustine owns it, what is our concern there?
No. We're talking about our little parcel now, our little thing. The city of St. Augustine owns the parcel on the other side of Hospital Creek.
It doesn't own the little...
Which side do we own?
We own the little tiny rutted one on the east side of Hospital Creek, on south side of the road. There's a little turn. If you're heading towards the Volano Bridge, if you turn right and then snake back around in the opposite direction, there's that rutted little dirt parking lot down there, and people launch kayaks back there.
Say, do we own that?
We own that. The city of St. Augustine just bought the parcel on the west side of Hospital Creek from that. Remember that for a while they were going to develop it into a bunch of boat hotels or something?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they bought that one, and I had heard there was talk of potentially trying to develop that into a kayak launch, but it sounds like there's some question of whether they're just going to try to conserve it or turn it into a park and not mess with the waterfront at all or what. So it remains to be seen where that's going. But I guess for now, we just need to wait until we hear from Taylor about what our options are. If we don't have any options to improve it that make any sense financially or logistically, then we should consider posting a no trespassing sign, not because we're trying to actually keep people out of there, but because we want to let people know that if they hurt themselves out there, they have no recourse to us because we do not want them out there legally, maybe not practically. Go ahead, Jim.
So all I need is some guidance. You want us to spend somewhere between 8 and 16 hours to take a hard look at that to give you what a safe, minimally, it meets the minimum standards of care for it to be a safe place to launch vessels of some size to some size. I need some limit so my design crew doesn't go nuts with.
Right.
I need some number to send them out there, take good pictures, survey it so we know what the real condition is, and then what the safe condition would be from do we put in concrete, do we put in things that help secure it from a safety standpoint.
Yeah, well,
Because what I'd hate to do is make a recommendation to bring a couple of, dump truckloads of sand in there, dump it in there, somebody will compact it, and that's good enough.
Oh, well,
Where I think that just opens us to more liability, because if we're trying to take care of it so that it is
usable, then yes,
Usable
we
for
are,
the
we're
public.
inviting people out there.
So,
Yeah, that's
so I
the,
just need some gross number for an estimate to say,
Right.
here's
Well,
what we see.
Commissioners Bender and Kirker, if I recall, were both in favor of Taylor doing this. So if you guys have any specific thoughts on directing them, because
Just
another
need
thing
a
we maybe
limit so
need
they
to...
don't go nuts.
Yeah, well, if we're improving that parking lot enough, at a certain point, we're going to need to start thinking about whether there's ADA requirements, right, or lighting requirements and things like that. So we certainly would need to know that before we proceeded.
From a legal standpoint, see,
But
that's the
all-
other piece. See, we have to
Defer.
validate all that design, that it meets all the standards of care from the, the minimum, obviously, the minimum standard of care has to be maintained
Right.
if we're going to put our name on it. I would think if you're going to put your name on it as well.
Right.
But
You had mentioned a bit, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, sorry, me
Okay.
first. Before we do anything about this, I'm opposed to doing anything today. But I want to see the document that shows that we own that property.
Elise, it's been many years, but you sent around all of those land and bottomland surveys that show what we
A
own.
long time ago.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's in the office of,
In the Leitner Building?
in our office in the Leitner Building, you're saying? Or at the office of the property appraisers, or one of the county offices?
Courthouse, the county court,
Uh-huh.
yeah, the county offices. But every year I get a trim bills
Mm-hmm.
for all the property that we own that we don't pay any taxes on.
Right.
So I could probably pull last year's and it'll show you what the property is. I don't know what else you need.
That would be useful. In the handbook that we used to get when you got onto the board in the first place, there was also a survey of all the land that we own. I have that somewhere at the house. I can try to dig that up.
Somewhere I put it in the port office because, once he left,
When you say he left, what you mean is once he decided not to be associated with the Port District anymore because Sandy accused him of fraud for having our logo on his business cards.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we're very clear about why Ken is not associated with the Port District anymore.
Yeah, he was kind of, yeah. So,
Does the city have a rendering of it? Does the city have a map showing?
It would be the county, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl?
If you don't mind, I think I can shed some light on this.
Terrific.
So if it's okay before Commissioner Blow comes up, because he knows full well. So, we have a whole crew of GIS folks who track down these things for every county, where we look at all these different parcels for FI&D. So we'd be happy to pull that up and have all that data as part of this. That's how we would go about it anyway, that we're not stepping outside the bounds of what it is you are responsible for or not. So that would be like task number one for us anyway, but I'll leave it there.
Well, just real quick, the Port District does own that, what I guess was an old right-of-way from the original bridge. In addition to that, you own going south a significant amount of salt.
The marsh, right.
And if you go on the St. Johns County Property Appraiser's website and click on the map, you can go and basically see that area, and you can click on it, and it will give you a pretty good idea of what you own as far as, and what I find kind of interesting, I almost hate saying this, but the last time I looked at it, you actually own the bottomlands of Hospital Creek. Right in that area. But that's an easy, cheap way to see what you own, actually. The other thing, real quickly, just in my other life, I deal with DOT on occasion, and I think the first thing, if you were to try to develop that old right-of-way that you own there, and you got in the situation of having to get a DOT driveway permit, I think, based on my experience, you're going to find it very difficult to get that permit.
Yeah, they still own at least the first, 8 or 10 feet of that turnoff before you get down in there. I remember that was an issue last time.
DOT resists giving driveway permits. If they had their way, there would be no driveway permits.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially in that area, I think it would be very difficult to get a driveway permit.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just, thank you.
Thank you. So yes, Commissioners Bender and Kirker, if y'all have any specific thoughts on how you would like to see Taylor proceed up. Here comes Clay.
Yeah, if you could come with me, and you can, Mr. Moreno can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what kind of the issue is them being tasked with come up with options. Option A is a perfectly nice 3-2 with a drive-in garage, but option could go up to C, D, E, and F, including a 15-room mansion, technically. And I think there's potentially some concern on Taylor's part of it's open-ended. If we come up with 4 different ways this could be improved, someone or someone's might have heartburn over the amount of time and money that was spent coming up with those designs. I would definitely recommend that to the extent options are sought, definitely follow the recommendation. It should be at a minimum, whatever the minimum generally accepted safe standards would be. That should be option number 1, period. If you do not want to come up with any options that do not meet those basic safety standards. As to how many additional options beyond that the commission might want, the only thought I would have is potentially say, task Taylor with, get us the minimum that would be needed, and within blank budget, come up with the next best option above that and the next best option above that, so that Taylor has parameters about how much time and money they should spend on this. And please correct me if I'm wrong, if what I perceived your concern.
I think it's easiest if we put together, like we do for dozens of others, we'll just put together a scope with multiple levels. You draw the line where you want that level. So it would be the minimum standard says, here's what you got, here's what the minimum, standard of care would be if you owned it and wanted to operate it as a boat launch, right? Kayak launch?
I have less interest in kayak launching than I do parking.
Okay. It would be, I think, safest, we put together option 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and we'll give you an estimate for what it takes to get to each of those. You draw the line at the next meeting, just tell us which one of those do you want to draw the line.
Well, part of it, on the parking thing, I can see the access of a boat a truck pulling a giant trailer, and there's no legitimate access. But that's what's happening unofficially now, and there were probably a dozen parked in there on Saturday.
Right, and so that's the challenge where it's not, and again, not to put this, the sheriff's office has enough things to work on, and the city police, if it's not monitored.
Things happen.
So it's a matter then, this is incumbent then upon the owner to control what that access can or can't be.
Right.
So it may be likely that we would recommend to you to put in some size gate, fencing gate, that allows whatever size and number that you want inside your property. And it could be restricted with a fencing structure or something of that nature, as opposed to it being a free-for-all. Well, that's the problem.
Right.
Is,
Giving
so
me a headache.
then it either goes on law enforcement, they get stuck with having to control something that nobody has set a criteria for.
Right.
Which isn't great. Or
Another thing I think
you
that
have to.
this came up years ago when we first were considering this and ended up regrading that parking lot. Another thing I think that would be worth considering, especially if it is being used essentially as an overflow parking lot for the county's boat ramp, is just to give that parcel to the county. Like, they are in a much better position to manage it in whatever way they see fit. We do not have we don't really have a great deal of institutional capacity to be monitoring and managing a boat ramp day in, day out when we meet one time a month. Whether or not it's being used, I think it would probably be worth our while to see if they would like it. It's within city limits, so maybe the city would want it too, but I think the county might be an even better potential recipient for it just because their facility is right there and it is being, its use is being impacted by the use of their facility right next door.
As much as Commissioner Blow will hate this, but I mean, you can use some of that $600,000 left over, maybe get a FID to help pay for the improvements next year.
Right.
And just,
Yeah, absolutely. But
Best way.
again, that would be also a project that the county, which has an entire Parks and Recreation staff, would be in a much better position to actually facilitate than we would, who have basically no staff.
Or the city.
Or the city, exactly.
City has those all over the place.
Mr. Chairman,
Curtis,
I changed my mind. I think it would be a good idea to put up a no trespassing sign from the Port Waterway Beach Commission.
Okay.
That's the first thing that we really ought to do to take away the liability.
Okay.
Is have a sign made up. Carl wants to.
Just one quick comment. I manage commercial property, so I'm always thinking about liability, but I'm also thinking about you guys being elected people. And I'm going to ask the question to your attorney. Instead of saying no trespassing, how about signage that says you're entering this area at your own risk? This is a hazardous area, there's, something to that effect. I mean, if you did get sued, you have documentation of that signage. The reason I'm saying that is when you say no trespassing, I can see you just irritating a lot of people.
Right.
You're going to get the phone calls. So I just thought I'd throw that out.
Good thought. Thank you for it. What do you say, Clay?
it's different levels of safety as far as from liability concerns. The enter at your own risk, if people enter, you're still potentially going to be liable to a lawsuit for any danger that they encounter that is not open and obvious. And if someone falls and gets injured, whether it's true or not, the allegation will be that it was not open and obvious. And recent events are great examples of even if you're entirely right and even if you win, there's an expense to defending litigation. And in those kinds of cases, it would not be a cheap expense. And you would not have any provision to potentially go after attorney's fees or costs for prevailing.
Right.
And so sort of thinking back sort of the topic, I suggest that it sounds like the three options that Taylor would be tasked with as being good options to bring back are A, thoughts on the best way to secure it with no trespassing, what do you need as far as gates, posts, otherwise. B, what's the next best option for just making it a parking lot? It's not a boat launch, it's not a kayak launch, it's just going to be used for parking purposes only. And then C, what's the best options for actually using it as a boat/kayak launch is, I think, what I've heard from all the different comments and concerns as far as the three things that the port would want to consider that Taylor could offer input on.
Right, but I wouldn't even offer us that. It depends on how you want to deal with, if you seriously want to consider giving it to the city or the county, because then that money would not be wisely spent.
Right. There'd be no point in
No sense
right.
of me coming up with three options for you. That money would be, down the drain if your decision is to give it to the city or the county. So I think you need to make that decision. And I'm not putting this, if you want us to design it,
Right.
I'm happy to do it. I just don't want to see money spent.
So, yes, if we were to pursue that, I think the thing to do would be to call the County Parks and Rec, and then also maybe have Corey, if you'd be willing to carry that back to the city as well, to gauge it, to see if there's any interest whatsoever on the part of either the county or the city in taking over that parcel. Then at our next meeting, we could report back, see if we've heard anything from them. If we have been roundly rejected by both, then we could ask you to start looking into alternatives, or rather options for improvement or securing it, or whatever it is that we decide.
I just hate to see that money spent here if you're not going to be able to
Right.
execute. It's been this long, another month.
So, yeah, I mean, that would certainly be my preference, but I don't speak for the commission, and we would need a motion in order to pursue that. Clay, coming back again?
So if you would like, I could have our GIS guys easily pick up what you own and what you don't own.
That
and I can bring
information-
that to the next meeting.
That information is already out there. I think that we can get that one. But if we run into any difficulties, maybe, if any commissioners are having a tough time finding it, maybe you can ask Jim to help. But it should be readily available from the county. Sorry, Clay, what did you have to say?
No problem at all. And I apologize if there's nothing else that's jumping in my head. This is a new development. But the one thing I thought that did come to my head quickly is the commissioners would probably want to consider whether they wanted to investigate an outright gift without conditions, without strings, or if there's any desire on the commission's part to say, we're giving you this property so long as it is only going to be used for recreational purposes or improving the water, those types of things, and if not, it would revert back. Not at all saying you need to do that or would want to do that, just mentioning it as something you might want to consider before you start having those discussions.
Sure. Yes, because they're so preliminary, I wouldn't think that we would need to attach any conditions quite yet. But I think that's a great point, and maybe if we come back next month and it turns out the county is interested, at that point, in discussing whether or not we were going to give it to the county, we would also then discuss whatever conditions we wanted to put on it as part of that bequest.
Yeah, and otherwise, beyond that, I think the chair was already headed. You would just need to decide, is that a course of action that the commission wishes to pursue, and whom you would like to designate to take the lead in reaching out? And since it's just gauging interest, that can be an individual commissioner, because you're not going to bind the commission to anything. You're just figuring out if there's
Right.
interest on the other side. And sorry for interrupting.
Nope, that was a great point, thank you. So we'll need some motions on how to proceed here. Does anybody have?
I would move that we proceed with contacting the city of St. Augustine and St. Johns County to see if they have any interest in taking the parcel and using it for some sort of recreation or parking related to the boat ramp.
Okay, there's a motion.
Would second it.
Second? All right, any additional discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Great. I am happy to reach out to County Parks and Rec to see if they have any thoughts on that, or, but if anybody else would prefer to.
I mean, we can let Corey get...
Well, he's going to talk to the city, right? I'm talking about the county.
But you said you were going to talk to the county.
Yeah, I'm saying Corey will talk to the city for us, right? Great, and I'm happy to talk to the county about that.
Do you remember about 5 or 6 years ago, we spent $7,000 to fill the potholes?
Yeah, I think it may have even been more than that. I think it was close to $20,000. It was a lot of money.
No, it wasn't. It was only about $7,000 or $8,000.
My recollection, and this is foggy because I haven't looked at the notes, but my general recollection is that Commissioner Flowers represented that it would be a small amount.
Right.
And it ended up being a significantly larger amount, and this was in the 4 to 5 year ago window. Because I remember the discussion occurring since I've been here, and that places the time frame.
Right.
So what was the amount that was spent?
I do not recall the specifics offhand.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I think we initially approved 7,000, and then if they came in with extra, I don't remember.
I think it came in higher after the fact. It was a boondoggle. Good. Any other discussion on the May Street boat ramp? No. Jim, you're free to go. Thank you. Next up, old business, item C, St. Johns County Sheriff, overtime, all commissioners. I believe the only outstanding issue was that commissioners wanted an opportunity to read the MOU before voting on the overtime. Everybody has had a chance to read the MOU at this point. Is there any controversy? Does anybody have any additional questions about its terms? Yes, Commissioner Bender?
I read it. My only general question is the person signing for the county the appropriate person? And that's down as Josh Underwood? Or should it be somebody in their finance office? And I raise that issue because of the issues in your finance office a number of years ago?
Yes, sir. Lieutenant Keith Oak, St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. So yes, Commander Josh Underwood would be our correct signer, finance reviews, but our commanders and different people within will be the authorizing person, because they are tasked with the responsibility of oversight of making sure that is done correctly and used correctly.
So should we have, besides his name, somebody else from the county on it too?
No, sir. No, sir, that's the current direction from the Sheriff's Office. We used to have a Director Beaver's name on it, which we had to remove because that position no longer exists at the Sheriff's Office. So Commander Underwood is now the highest ranking individual that has oversight of the program.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions on that? No? Do I have a motion to approve the SJ CSO overtime?
So moved.
So moved. And a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. Great, so new business, grant application.
Well, while we're talking about just this question with
Sorry,
the
go ahead.
county, do we have something similar with the city for the police and fire?
The police and fire overtime, yes, we have ongoing, or yearly overtime. But do we have an actual MOUs with them? No, we don't.
We do not have a formal interlocal regarding the overtime with City of St. Augustine Fire or Police.
Right.
We simply have a budget line item that is approved each year. And it's appropriate to proceed that way. It's already budgeted in. The interlocal just adds a certain level of formality and, in all candor, prevents either organization from changing their mind 6 months into the year.
Right.
But we do not have formal interlocals with the city for either of those issues.
Right.
And that was something our agency requested. We've done that across the board. That is a change that the Sheriff's Office has instituted, is that all our contracting and agreements, regardless, are now documented in some sort of agreement, so.
Right.
And I
Kind of wanted
commend,
to change for
and I
us.
commend you for doing that. So my question is, should we have one with the city for the police and fire to give them an additional level of protection?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's for them to decide, I think, not us.
It's our money going to them, so
Right, but-
besides having a budgeted item, should we have something else?
Right. Well, I think, as Clay was saying, the reason for them doing that, and Keith mentioned it as well, is for them to be protected so that we don't change our mind and decide to revoke the money that we had essentially promised them as a part of our budgeting process. It does not really, it binds us, but it does not bind them in any way that I think is particularly meaningful for our finances or our legal standing vis-a-vis the city. So I think as long as the city does not request it, there's not much benefit to us to impose it on them. I think it is more a recipient protection than it is a giver protection.
That would be a fair statement.
Chris Bassetti, St. Augustine Fire Department. On that same topic, sir, I believe when it came up for the city, the only question, or the reason for when it is all of the city, and Cord, please correct me, lies within your district, so there was no concern about being out and around and those kind of things. So
Right.
since the city is all encompassing your district, it wasn't a concern with where we were using that money.
Right. Speaking of money,
Good. Proceed. Speaking of money, so a little over a year ago, we had this similar discussion. We're looking at upgrading our fireboat. The one we currently have is a completely open cabin, 27-foot. Essentially, it's a Boston Whaler. It's a Guardian class. We keep finding ourselves in more and more pretty nasty conditions. We are inviting more people into our waterways, and a lot of those folks are staying during nor'easters and named storms, and we find ourselves out in some pretty nasty stuff. Our current boat has served us really well, and just like when we talked last year, what we're trying to do is go after a port security grant and use Find and the Port District as potential matches for it. The vessel we're looking at is around 33 feet, so it's the same size as about the Sheriff's Office safe boat that sits downtown. The Coast Guard asked if we would go after something much larger, but we don't really have a need, and we need it to be able to operate. We have quite a few kayakers in distress and back in the mud flats, marina issues, trying to get around the marinas in case we have fires and pollution issues there, so we're trying to keep it relatively small. The problem with firefighting is as soon as you put fire on it, it becomes really expensive. So the same boat would be about half the price if it was a simple patrol boat. Once you add a significant fire pump to it, it goes way up. So our ask is to go along with the port security. The total project amount is around $827,000. We're hoping for port security grant, the federal grant, get 617 of that. From FIND, we go down and present in June for 125, and we are asking for 85 from the port security, or from the Port and Waterway District.
Right. Good, yeah, I think everybody here has had an opportunity to review the materials. You guys sent it in a while ago, if I'm remembering correctly, right?
Sent one a while back, and then we updated it and sent it just not too long ago.
Is there any questions for Mr. Bassetti about the fireboat? When can we expect to get a ride on the fireboat? How long is it going to take for it to come in?
I wish I could give you, so the last year, we had all of our ducks in a row, between you guys and FIND, and then port security kind of got doged, and it stretched it way out, and we didn't even get to go for it. So we're hoping that the feds play well this year, and that should be opening up hopefully in the next month or so. Realistically, we're then looking at about a 16 to 18 month build time, after that.
Wow. So you're not seeing that boat until 2028 at the earliest?
I will probably be retired, yes, sir.
Okay.
But I would like to set them up a little safer and a little better on the water, because it would be nice to have a cabin whenever we're operating in those storms.
Right.
Just if I could, because I've not personally seen the application, and there's nothing wrong with using general terms, but is the precise amount being sought from the district $85,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make that clear before there was a motion on it.
Okay.
If we approve the $85,000 today, then when would you use it?
So ideally, it would probably be the following year, once we go into the contract, following budget year, once we enter into the contract. It could be earlier, it could be late this budget year, but it'll all depend on, Corey, I don't know if you have any more insight dealing with the feds, but my guess would be early next budget cycle or late this budget cycle.
But you need us to approve relatively early so you can prove that you have local match so that you can get that, you can pursue the grant. Okay,
Yes,
that's
sir.
why you're asking for
That's
it
correct.
now rather than next year. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, I move we approve the expenditure for the fire department for $85,000.
Second.
Yeah, I agree. This is at the core of what we should be spending money on here in the Port District. So all in favor? Aye. Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And,
you.
if you want to come ride on our current fireboat at any time, you're welcome to. We're happy to take you out.
Oh, there's not even a cabin. Who would want to ride in that boat?
There's not, but you get the full effect. So we can wait for a nor'easter if you want. It's better.
Is that fireboat being held at Volano Landing?
No, sir. It's at the City Marina downtown.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Terrific, thank you. Okay, our final bit of new business for the day is addressing Commissioner Flowers' inappropriate behavior. Mr. Meek, welcome back.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, I won't go into a whole lot of background because you all have sat through it and seen it firsthand. So I think everyone here kind of understands the issues that have presented themselves. In a general sense, unfortunately, there are not a ton of options under either Constitution, Charter, statutes, a little bit of case law in dealing with potential ramifications, what an entity such as this can do. Your first sort of step in expressing disapproval over a commissioner's comments or choices of behavior would be within the voting process itself as agenda items come up. And that's something that this commission has already attempted to utilize to correct that behavior. As far as commenting on it's inappropriate to scream at people presenting, it's inappropriate to cut them off, those types of things. The going up next level of severity or of bringing attention to the improper behavior would be actually coming up with specific discussion within a meeting over the inappropriate behavior. Obviously, that's happening today, but it's also happened a couple of times in the past where commissioners have noted, usually in commissioner comment, about how certain behavior, it would be wonderful if a individual could address that and maybe be more professional and more as people would expect. So it's been The second level has been touched upon already. Going up that ladder, your third level as an entity would be to take a formal vote to find a person in need of reprimand and/or censure. That's, you would reprimand and/or censure them. It doesn't mean they're no longer a commissioner. It doesn't mean there's a financial repercussion. It is a public expression of the body itself that certain behavior is inappropriate. That's the end of it. That's not, you can't then say you're limited in coming to meetings, you're limited in doing any of your duties as a commissioner. This is somewhat different. I don't know to the extent commissioners follow the news, but there's obviously been some articles and a lot of discussion about the federal Congress and what the House has powers to do or not do as far as expelling members. That's not something this commission can do. It's just not there. The next and final rung going up the ladder of severity would be either the governor on his or her own, or the commission taking the initiative and writing to the governor and contacting them and say, here's the behavior that's completely out of line. We believe it warrants suspension or removal. The governor is the only entity in the state of Florida that has the power to do that. To the extent the commissioner challenged an action by the governor as far as suspension or removal, the trial, so to speak, would be in the Florida Senate. And the governor's hands are very untied when it comes to deciding whether something does or does not warrant suspension or removal. There are a number of categories that are identified as far as things that justify suspension or removal by the governor. They largely mirror each other, but there's actually two different sources for this issue, one of which would be Section 12 of the Charter that created the Port District. Under that section, misfeasance, nonfeasance, and malfeasance, if done intentionally, are grounds for removal or suspension. If we flip over to the Florida Constitution, it gives us malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, drunkenness, incompetence, permanent inability to perform duties, and the commission of a felony. Interestingly, neglect of duty is not under the charter, but is under the other. I think even though the items listed in the Constitution are not in the charter, they would equally apply. I think it's not an either-or list, it's a both list. So anything that falls under either of those lists would be a ground for the governor to say you are suspended, and he can do it, he or she can do it for a specific period of time. He can make it open-ended. It can be I'll get back to you if and when I think you can come back to holding your office, or it can be outright removal. For the new commissioners, a little bit of backdrop to this. There was previously inappropriate behavior, I believe, on Commissioner Flowers' part that was subject to a similar presentation that I'm giving now, which was done a few years ago prior to Commissioners Binder and Kirker joining this body. My reading of the case law is that with each new election, it's a new starting point.
Slate is wiped clean, yeah.
Yes. The voters are presumed to know what the person has done, and if they still vote them in, you got to come up with something new that has occurred since that time. So I'm not going to go into all the issues that existed previously because there were a number of these things that could have been addressed. I think the biggest issues that are occurring right now are simple inability to follow normal rules of decorum and allow meetings to proceed smoothly and efficiently. And it's my perception it limits the number of members of the public who wish to come before this body and speak out of concern of what they're going to encounter. I think those issues can fall under the broad heading of misfeasance, which is you're doing your job, but you're not doing it properly. Because while this body has not formally adopted a set of procedures and protocols for how meetings should be conducted. Robert's Rules of Order is generally accepted, with limited exception as to how someone should conduct themselves. There's also a potential, maybe there's been communication from Commissioner Flowers prior to today's meeting as far as her not being here today. I'm not aware of it. But to the extent a commissioner significantly and repeatedly fails to attend meetings, that can fall under the general heading of nonfeasance. And Commissioner Flowers has missed a number of meetings since her most recent election. It would be another potential area to say, Governor, look at this. They certainly can't do the job if they're not here. And there is no hard and fast rule in this context as to the number of meetings that have to be missed versus not missed. It is a judgment type of thing. In other contexts, there are governing documents, ordinances, whatever, that specify if you miss blank meetings within this number of time, or if you miss this many meetings in a row, that's a ground. That does not apply here. It would be a judgment type call. Coming back to all that, to the central question of what are the commission's options, my suggestion would be you've tried number one and you've tried number two. As much as I would say, I think many reasonable people sitting in the governor's shoes, if they were made aware of the extent to which the improper behavior disrupts proceedings, I can think of a lot of reasonable people would say that's grounds for suspension. I don't suggest jumping straight to that. I would think the first step would be for the commission to attempt a couple of censure reprimand type things. I think if it ultimately came to the point of asking the governor to intervene, it would go a long way to be able to say, we tried this, we've tried this, we've reprimanded and censured 2 times, 3 times, whatever it is, continuing to specify this. There's nothing else in our toolbox. We have nothing else we can attempt to do to change this behavior. And I'm not the governor. I don't advise the governor. I don't know if that would be enough, but I think those would be important steps to take first. And then the only other comment I would make as far as the reprimand suspension goes is, and I've not been able to find any legal authority on this, but I've run it through my head several times, and I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't be possible or proper, is my perception is that a significant amount of the improper behavior occurs because no matter how much the people in this room observe it, the general public is not aware of it. So one thing I think the commission might want to consider if and when they reach the point of we're going to have an actual agenda item for reprimand or censure is the additional part of that, and we're going to publish it in the local newspaper. Identifying, here is why we did this. Here is the behavior we want to see approved. I can't find that that's been done before. I can't find a legal prohibition against it. It would need to be certainly tailored to the formal written reprimand suspension or reprimand censure that was being adopted. And to that end, I would suggest if you wish to go that route, step one is we have an agenda item of whether or not conduct has occurred that warrants censure or reprimand. If the majority vote is yes, have the second meeting be reviewing the language of the reprimand censure so that everyone is completely comfortable with exactly what the black and white of it is. And then after that meeting, whether or not that is something that is just adopted by the commission or adopted and directed to be published. And that's something, if I were a commissioner, I think that would probably be a great second step on that ladder. You tried the first 2 steps. Maybe the first censure reprimand is we're doing it here, but it's not hidden from the outside world, but we're not broadcasting it to the outside world, but the next one will be published. Those are my thoughts. I'm happy to answer any questions.
You mentioned censure or reprimand. What's the difference?
Semantics. They're generally used interchangeably.
So which term should we use if we wanted to make a motion, say at the next meeting, to censure, or should we use the word reprimand?
If I were making the motion, I would make the motion to censure and/or. The lawyer's wonderful catch-all of and/or. And that way, if it came, ideally, it would then come back with a written document, and the commission itself could edit that document as they like before it was formally adopted. But the terms are largely used interchangeably.
So if our inclination is to do that, it should come up at the next meeting.
Since Commissioner Flowers is not here to hear this herself, obviously this discussion will be in the minutes, which will be circulated to all commissioners prior to the next meeting. So that is on a significant level notice of what the feeling of the commission is. My suggestion would be the next time there is significant behavior that any commissioner feels is inappropriate, that would be the time to make a motion to bring this back for a formal consideration of reprimand or censure.
But we don't want to try to do that for last month's behavior. It seems like we already have pretty low-hanging fruit in terms of censurable behavior. Wouldn't it make sense for us to just go ahead and put on next month's agenda to formally censure her for her behavior at last month's meeting?
That is certainly possible, yes. Whatever foundation is necessary to cross that bridge has been laid.
Sure.
It is the commission's choice as to when they wish to start walking across that bridge.
Yeah, my inclination would be to go ahead and start walking across that bridge as soon as we can. I think every meeting that we wait, our inaction on it is in a way, sort of promoting that, or at least,
I'd like to ask Elise, did she give you any indication of why she was not going to be here today?
No, I have no email, and no, she never emailed.
Oh, you thought she was coming, I can tell, because
Oh,
she
yeah.
had her place at the table.
Usually she'll actually email and send out an email and say she won't be there. She's ill or whatever reason, but she didn't send one out.
Well, if it is the will of the commission, we need a motion. Well, actually, I don't think we do need a motion. We can just all kind of informally agree that we'd like to see a formal censure vote for Commissioner Flowers' behavior at the March meeting put on next month's agenda. Is that the will of the commission? I would certainly like to see that.
I think that's appropriate, because we can't vote on it because it wasn't noticed this time. So
Right.
just to vote to add it to next.
I agree. Let's agree to put it on the agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Bender,
Yes.
you okay with that?
Is that new business?
That will be, that'll be new business.
And what the agenda item is going to be called?
Vote to censure/reprimand Commissioner Flowers for March meeting behavior.
Good.
Which also includes the false allegations against Commissioner Rivers and myself for
That was actually at
violation,
the February meeting,
for
right?
violations of
So you can say February and March meeting behavior.
Because that's a serious situation when
Absolutely
somebody
is.
comes out and says, you violated the Sunshine Law, because I have a license. And part of when I renew my license, have you been sanctioned or any charges against you? Mr. Rivers, I believe you have a real estate license,
Yes?
and that may have the same kind of impact. So you don't play games with those situations.
Now you're going to do the vote to censure or reprimand Commissioner Flowers for
inappropriate behavior at February and March 2026 meetings.
what kind of behavior?
Inappropriate?
Oh, there.
Or behavior at and associated with, because I believe the allegations were formally leveled outside of
Afterwards,
the
that's
meeting.
true. That's true. Clay can help you word that, Elise. We'll get it real nice and lawyerly.
And
It's only going on the agenda.
I think the will has been expressed clearly, but just so every I is dotted and T is crossed, could a commissioner say they so moved?
Say what?
I was just wondering.
Clay wants a formal motion on this, just to be sure. So that's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you, Clay.
Yes, sir.
That brings us to...
While Clay is still here,
Yes, sir.
where do we stand with the $2,100 collection?
Right now, we are, I have to contact the judge to get a...
And for those in the audience who aren't aware of this, because of her past litigation against the port has accrued $2,100 plus expenses, and we gave the go-ahead to Mr. Meek to further pursue that collection.
Right, to sue for costs.
Yes, sir. I still do not have a hearing before the judge to reassess that. I do not anticipate that occurring within the next, or there should be a 60 to 90-day window to get hearing time and get back in front of the judge on that.
The only thing I would ask is that in that transition from your office to the next attorney's office, I would expect that you would have a report to that attorney to continue following through on that collection.
Absolutely. Not only that matter, but any and all port business, not to take up the commission's time, but this is the best way to talk to all of you. What my mindset is that at whatever meeting the commission will be deciding who the new attorney is, I plan to bring all of my paper materials with me that would be appropriate for a transition, and to physically turn that over to the new attorney, in addition to giving them my contact information to be able to speak with them as they start looking through that. What I would envision is whoever the new general counsel is, I would suggest the commission take that person's lead as to whether they wish me to continue to carry the football in the current litigation or someone else.
Right.
In all candor, if the next general counsel happens to be someone here in St. Johns County, it would be more efficient to have that attorney doing the day-to-day litigation type stuff. And I would also defer to that general counsel as to how they feel best about pursuing those things and who to do it. I would be happy to continue to assist as necessary with that transition to that attorney, or if they want it to go to an outside counsel, I will absolutely assist with that transition. My general outlook on all legal matters that I represent is first thing I have to be conscious of whenever there is a transition is that first and foremost the client's interests must be protected. And I will undertake any and all necessary communication to make sure that transition occurs. Which is also why when I turned my notice in, I gave the commission what I felt was a significant number of months of lead time for exactly that reason, so that there would be a smooth transition and the client would not be prejudiced in any way.
Also with the posting, because these agenda items are posted on a monthly basis, correct?
Yes, I believe they're posted on the website.
I would not go any further than that or have any separate documentation which could be considered slander against Commissioner Flowers in terms of statements other than this item.
Exactly, and that's part of why I suggested sort of the two-step approach with the reprimand censure of the formal vote to do it, and then the second meeting, the exact language that wants to be incorporated to make sure it's...
But you also had mentioned the possibility of having some more language explaining the situation for those who aren't aware of the situation, and I wouldn't go that far right now to get into a possible slander situation.
Yeah. No, that would be a further step after a further incidents of bad behavior potentially. I think.
Yeah, it'll be up to the commission as a whole, their discretion as to how much or little detail they want to put into the censure reprimand.
Right.
It can be because you were very, very bad on this date. It can be, here are the things we believe you did inappropriately on that date. And it can be as short a list or as long a list as the will of the commission is.
Right.
But I certainly understand the point, and it's well taken of sometimes less is more.
Good. Any other comments there? No? Thank you, Mr. Meek.
Thank you all.
Public comment? No? Commissioner comments?
One of the things we talked about during this meeting, but I'm not sure we're in a position, is contract review. Mm-hmm. It's part of the agenda. It's part of the minutes from last meeting.
Right. I believe that the idea there was that...
we wanted to see the documents, to know when they're expiring, to know what's happening. And we haven't, other than Mr. Meek's document, I haven't seen anything else.
No, Elise,
I have one, but
you mailed...
no expiration.
You sent a couple things around, though, did you not? We got more than just Clay's.
There's contracts. CRI does it every 3 years. I could send you the CRI, which I actually pulled to send. And mine is no contract. It started, it's an engagement.
It's an engagement letter, right.
It's an
You sent that around, though, did you not? I could have sworn we saw more than just...
All I received is Mr. Meeks.
God, am I misremembering that?
I'll
Okay,
send-
can you please send CRI and your engagement letter? And we need to see Taylor's contract too, is the other one. Can you send that one?
Just sends, and the funny thing was, I just pulled it, it was like an email extending their contract.
Right, but I think what Nick would like to see is probably the original contract, yeah.
That goes back to the 90s. Or 80s, 90s, yeah.
I think in too many cases, there's an original contract, and then we didn't always timely extend it. So I'm not sure when things ended.
I see. Yeah, well, you can, send the extension, the most recent extension, so he knows the dates, but if there's a way to find that original contract, that would probably
Yeah, I'm sure
potentially be
it's-
helpful. We've seen it in the last few years, when one of the extensions came up because Sandy was accusing them of some kind of fraud or graft or something, and so we needed to see the original one.
Well, I know we did it with the auditors, where we extended that for
It's every 3 years.
additional period of time.
Yes, I think our most recent extension with Taylor was a 2-year extension, again, because she was saying that any more than that was indicative of them stealing money from us or something. But if you could try to find that extension, Elise, and send that around, and then find your engagement letter as well.
My engagement actually that was from 2022 for me personally.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, just send it around so that Nick has an opportunity to, and Linda as well, have an opportunity to review it, because they have not seen it.
Just because it's on the topic, I just wanted to offer, were there any questions, comments, or concerns about my contract that I circulated? I'm happy to address those if anyone has any.
No, I don't think so. All right, thank you. Any other comments, Nick? Tom? None? Linda?
Yes, I wanted to share with you that I did go visit the folks at Summer Haven. I spent an afternoon there. And I went to the county commission meeting, but I had to leave, so I watched it the next day on TV whenever they made their presentation to the county commission. This is a complicated, there's lots of things that kind of all come together, and there's a number of funding sources, but there's also like a couple of groups down there. They're very motivated, they're smart, they've done a lot of homework. I think at some point it may be appropriate for us to help this group. I've asked them to kind of prioritize and who the other possible funders are, because what they did for the county commission when they came in, the county commission kind of said, yeah, we'll help or whatever, but it was a lot of money, a lot of phases, and my advice to them was when they came to this group to try to ask for something specific from us. It would be easier for us to evaluate.
We have spent over $1 million on Summer Haven Port.
Yeah, we have a long history down there, but I believe they're coming in to present next month, was their plan. It's either in May or June. I can't remember.
She said she had to go, Brenda had to go to the commission meeting, and she's
Right.
waiting to hear. And then we still have $80,000.
Yeah, we've got some of their money.
Got a budget.
But they made a pretty compelling thing about, lifestyle and waterway and access, but also even the preservation of property values. And this is some property values in that Barraterra place that they're getting washed out from underneath. And then there's the old A1A houses. And I didn't realize that the county had been picking these off for like $1 million or so a piece of what they call the orphan houses. And if we could save that money and preserve the other houses, I don't know. It wasn't just a few people saying, come dredge this. It's several different areas and several different projects. But what they couldn't, I never felt, how can you say you could spend this money and it won't happen again, and that's the problem.
Oh, yeah, that is the problem. That's the barrier they're up against because we already did spend that money, and it did happen. Yeah, Carl, go ahead. You want to come on up?
Fine. Just to follow up on that, they gave me a presentation, and it is a multi-phase, as you said, multi-phase project. The Commissioner Clay Murphy it's in his district, and he's sort of, or he is the contact person in the county as far as the elected official. Actually, we got a presentation from the county staff, find it in the Corps, about the project. And it was just an informational presentation. I think one thing that's, if I understood correctly, the county has engaged Taylor Engineering to do a feasibility study. And to address, and to be quite frank, I was involved in, I think I was the first elected person they ever came to. My personal opinion is the critical mistake that was made when the Port District was involved in it is we didn't go far enough south with the restoration of the river, because once that project was complete and we had a breach, the first breach, it occurred south of the area where the project had been done. And I think if we'd gone all the way basically to Marineland, it wouldn't have breached. It would have survived that storm. But anyway, it happened, and then that's what happened. So this project they're working on now is multi-phase. It includes restoration of the river and taking that material and building a dune. It also, they're talking about some hardening of that area. If you can just kicking around discussions with Taylor, part of the problem is you've got a hardened shoreline to the north and a hardened shoreline to the south at Marineland, and it sets up this dynamic where it basically is trying to eat out that unhardened area. But at any rate, the presentation was very interesting, and what kind of tweaked my interest about it is, as you said, the county has been purchasing those oceanfront properties, and they're developing quite a stretch of public-owned oceanfront. And the stuff to the extreme, the houses to the extreme south, those folks, and I think Commissioner Flowers said something about illegal dredging or something like that. Well, they apparently had permitted removing sand from the river at the extreme south with the idea of building a dune in front of their houses and then relocating what was old A1A from the east side of their houses to the west side of the houses. So that kind of makes sense. But what intrigued me is because of the massive growth in this county and the demand for people to go to the beach, if they can pull this off and create more public access oceanfront beach, and the way they would do it is, and this is kind of pretty intriguing, it sounds pretty expensive, but they would have public parking off of A1A and then a pedestrian bridge over the restored Summerhaven River to this public beach. So it's an interesting project. Where the money's going to come from, I don't know. It's sort of outside. I mean, Fine has had money in the river restoration in the past. We might be able to help them out, but we'll just have to see where it goes. But it's.
And I've gotten some traction with the Army Corps.
Well, our main interest is maintaining the intercoastal waterway, and our last project down there was basically removing sand that had come into the waterway where the Summerhaven River intersects the waterway on the south. One thing to keep in mind is the Summerhaven River was the original intercoastal waterway. And what happened was the intercoastal was relocated to the west. And there may have been some commitments to those property owners that there wouldn't be any negative impact of that. So anyway, that's our interest, is maintaining the waterways. But I didn't mean to take
No, not at all. Thank you.
But it's a very interesting presentation.
Yeah, and you're right, and we are going to get that full presentation, I believe, in May, and that's the most recent, so we'll have an opportunity to see. Okay, so we should look forward to that, but no need to put it on the agenda until she confirms.
Right.
Good. Any other comments, Commissioner Carter?
No, I just wanted to let you know that I had visited with them.
Very good. Nothing for me, which means that we need to formally declare when our next meeting will be, which will be, what did we say? It was going to be May 19th. There being no other business, this meeting is adjourned.